Right now on KGW News, new conflicting pieces of information about the local business owner detained by ICE officials in Yamhill County last week. Plus,
the data that was shared with the federal government with ICE is just a gross violation of the residents.
The growing concerns over Washingtonians' medical data being shared with federal immigration authorities. And later,
we haven't seen fire growth since the early parts of this fire.
Many are breathing a sigh of relief in the gorge after officials lower evacuation levels near the Rowena fire and clear the way for many people to finally return home. Your news at noon starts right now. Thanks for joining us here at noon. I'm China Green. We begin with an update on the man detained by federal immigration authorities last week in Yamhill County. A spokesperson for ICE said, in addition to not being a U.S. citizen, Moses Sotelo Casas, who owns a vineyard servicing company, also has a past criminal conviction for DUI. When we tried to verify that information, the Yamhill County DA's office told us a search of available court records found no results for Sotelo Casas. ICE also said that he crossed the border illegally from Mexico in 2006, but his family says he's been here since the 90s. He was detained last Thursday while on his way to work. His daughter says she hasn't received an explanation on why her father was detained and adds he started the process of becoming a citizen last year.
We started because everything was playing in our favor, and unfortunately it fell through the Trump administration. Now laws are changing, things are changing, and now we're here.
According to ICE, he's being held at the immigration detention facility in Tacoma. And some of the people arrested outside Portland's ICE facility on Saturday are now facing federal charges. We're also hearing from people who live near the ICE facility along the South Waterfront. Here's KGW's Joey Neary with that story.
It was a different scene outside the ICE facility on Monday morning than what we saw this weekend. Instead of sounds of flashbangs and tear gas, it was replaced by nail guns.
These things happen in Portland quite a bit, I've noticed. So,
talk with residents who've been living with the protests.
Very noisy, very animated. There's a lot of people, a lot of protests during the day, and then at night.
It's just been constant. Like, we're seeing red gases, green gases, which when we Googled that was chlorine.
They'll tell you it's been awful, especially over the weekend, where there were multiple rallies, including the No Kings rally that brought 50,000 people to the downtown area. Many of the people who live at Gray's Landing couldn't even leave because the crowds got so large.
We have air conditioning, and we can't put our air conditioning on. It gets so hot in that building because of the tear gas coming in. And
if they could leave, they had nowhere to go.
I don't have a car. This is our only way of getting out of the area. It's that north-south streetcar. And when that tears off down there, they shut it down. So we have no way of getting out of here.
Cindy, who's lived at Gray's Landing for almost a year, says she's not against the fight they have out there.
I don't agree with all the snatching the people off the street by ICE, but, don't make the rest of us suffer for it,
But she wants the people who gather to get their message out in a peaceful way.
I think all this is wrong, but I'm from the generation of Martin Luther King, okay? You protest, but not in violence.
Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
Meanwhile, Washington state leaders are outraged over what they're calling a massive breach of privacy. They say sensitive health information from Washington's Medicaid program called Apple Health was handed over to federal immigration authorities without their knowledge. Federal law requires Washington's health care authority to share Apple Health client data with the agency that oversees Medicaid, but the state says that information should not be passed on to the Department of Homeland Security. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson criticized the move, saying, quote, "It's outrageous that the Trump administration took Washingtonians' private health information and used it for its own political purposes." The ACLU called it a breach of trust and says that they want a roadmap for change.
Not only do we want, full accountability, but I think we want transparency on how we are going to move forward in this moment.
In a statement, the state health care authority said, in part, protecting the privacy of all of our Apple Health clients, regardless of their immigration status, is central to our mission, and we take those concerns extremely seriously. All right, we are headed upstairs to the weather deck to find Rodney Hill for a look at our forecast. Sun on the hair? Do we have sun on the hair?
Yeah.
There it
right.
is.
Can you see my hair?
I can see it.
A little balding in spots, but not bad overall.
Oh, that's a full head of hair right there.
You know, one of my favorite things in life is to come up here on the KGW weather deck, brought to you by Rick's Custom Fencing and Decking, when there's no chill in the air. It's just wonderful up here. Just a light breeze, but not much, and we will continue to be just glorious this afternoon. There will be some changes in parts of our state. Let's go to Chinook Winds Casino Resort camera in Lincoln State. This has been gorgeous all morning. Weather modeling still showing a low cloud deck coming into the coast toward the evening hours tonight. And then that same push of low clouds will eventually come into Portland into your Wednesday morning. But for right now, the beach is still sunny and still gorgeous. 57 degrees is the temperature. Here's our Rose City camera looking from across the Willamette over at downtown. We thought we'd be 68 at noon on sunrise, and we are at 68 degrees. That makes this forecaster happy. For the afternoon hours, that means we're on track for my forecast high of 80 degrees this afternoon and 74 8 o'clock. This will be the sunniest and probably the warmest day of the week. So if that's your cup of tea, enjoy. Now, one of my big headlines in my complete longer weather forecast coming up is this map. This is rain potential on Friday and Saturday. What could be a big needed soak across much of certainly western Oregon and Washington. Again, more on that changing weather pattern coming up in my complete forecast. I hate to come inside, China. It's really nice up here. Back to you.
Come on down, Ron. Thank you. In your national news this afternoon, President Donald Trump arrived back in Washington today after leaving G7 summit in Canada early, citing the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. NBC's Yamichel Sindor has the latest.
Well, it's been a striking 24 hours here in Canada, where President Trump announced late last night that he was actually going to be leaving the G7 early and going back to Washington, D.C. He cited the situation that's unfolding in the Middle East. At one point, he also posted online that anyone in Tehran, which of course is the capital of Iran, that they should evacuate. That being said, the president on the plane back to Washington, D.C. actually said that there was no imminent threat to Iran, and in fact that he just wanted to make sure that they did not get a nuclear weapon, which is something that he's been saying over and over again for weeks now. It's also clear that the U.S. is going to continue to support Israel in its ability to defend itself with missiles that are coming from Iran, but right now there is no indication that U.S. personnel or U.S. military will actually be involved in the conflict. There's a lot of worry, though, that this could spiral out of control. That being said, the president, while he was at the G7, did sign a new trade deal with the United Kingdom. The president also said that he's leaving behind the Treasury Secretary to deal with other trade deals that could come out of the G7, and he said that he's been negotiating with about 175 countries and that he hopes to roll out more trade deals. So it's an interesting development here, but also one where the president is now back in Washington, D.C. dealing with a number of issues. Back to you.
In other news, bail is set at $5 million for the suspect in the fatal shooting of a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband. 57-year-old Vance Belter faces federal and state charges, including murder and stalking. He was captured Sunday night following the largest manhunt in Minnesota history. According to NBC, Belter had planned his attack for months and had a notebook filled with scribbled notes and lists targets, including many Democrats, in addition to shooting Melissa and Mark Hortman. Authorities also accuse him of shooting and wounding another state lawmaker and his wife at their home. And those shootings in Minnesota happened less than 12 hours after the Oregon legislature passed a bill to conceal home addresses of both elected officials and candidates running for office. Governor Tina Kotek called the event really troubling and went on to say that this is a call to action for everyone to recommit ourselves to peaceful discourse and to reject violence.
Electeds across the country serve every single day to serve their communities, and this is so unacceptable. I can't even believe we have to say that. For that to have happened in Minnesota, that could happen anywhere in the country when that kind of thing happens, and we have to be vigilant and say no to that. That's not who we are as Americans.
State Representative Christine Drazen said that she is praying for the families and loved ones of Melissa Hortman, her husband, and Senator John Hoffman, adding that she is horrified and sickened by this targeted political assassination. Senate Majority Leader Casey Jama said these attacks did not emerge from thin air. They were hateful rhetoric mixed with threats of force, adding it's a dangerous direction, but one we can reverse together.